in some way. I have collected a few pictures. I will drop them in the chat in a second. Just how this thing may look like.
You can show it on your screen as well.
I think it would be better to drop it in the chat. Maybe just more convenient, so everyone could see it in the eye. Yeah, it should be there.
Oh, right.
So kind of the projection, which may look kind of like that, and which can be just a mapping, or which is more interesting, can be reactive on the music which is produced during the performance, because also the sound is very rhythmical, and it's mostly consists of the drums, and it probably might be cool if this projection, this animation can be reactive to this drum sound. It's naturally difficult to make, depends on what animation is that. And I even wanted to do some sketch, but I didn't manage to because I didn't have time. Maybe a bit later we'll try to, because it's really interesting how it can be implemented. Also, if we use projection, the space, the acting space may be more abstract because we need less.
True.
Sorry, my battery started to die. So we need less scenography, and the space may be more empty, so that we use more mapping. So yeah, but still, yeah, that's the idea I came up with. And then, yeah, but the costumes and the instruments, and maybe even like the stage construction, I think should remain, because this is what has this originality, and this, which brings this traditional Japanese theater in. So yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, that's I like the last photo. That's a good idea, and also some sort of reactive image. That's good. Yeah, and also I think so that like providing very realistic stage tools that would be like a little bit, that would be a kitsch, right?
Yeah, kind of, because also there's a question, in such kind of a play, where is this measure between keeping the originality, and if too many technologies and too many contemporary aspects starts to mix in, then there is a question if it's still the original play, if it's like something merged, and like, for example, in some plays, in some particular examples, it's not a problem because it just creates a new interpretation, new genre probably. But here, as for me, it's important to keep this authentic atmosphere. Anyway.
Yeah, the accents. That also
kind of.
thought, not to overwhelm it. Yeah, well, great, right? Thank you.
Thank you too.
Similar ideas.
Sure.
So also like, yeah, having the interior a bit like creating more atmosphere. So for me it was like interesting to show like more the nature. So what I thought, this was also like from the Tokyo Team Lab, that the ground of the character can be like displayed, or like even the character. So if you have like a bad character, then it's like tracing a black trace, like to show difference. And someone showed a music, or like a video in film graphics about mapping, but actually it was face mapping. So it was interesting. And
This one, okay.
The idea which came now into my mind would be to have more like additional information which is maybe interesting for younger people. So probably like children is too young, but that there is maybe some like kind of interaction which is, yeah, for those who like can't or don't want to dig into like the small details.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that basically in AR there is like a different information level, like that's maybe like easier to grasp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting ideas. Sure. What could be this trace? What sort of trace?
The traces, yeah, like I had here, if they're like walking on water or if it's like spring, they probably walk like on cherry blossoms and in autumn leaves. So because I think like also in Japanese culture, the seasons are very important. Mm, no play is, I think they don't want to project like a certain season to have it more universal, but I think it would make it more specific. That's what I meant, like giving clues in AR that are maybe not visible for the unexperienced user.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that it's kind of like when you are a child, you have on your bicycle like extra wheels, so it's like supports you, and afterwards you can take them away, so you can take the AR away and can just like appreciate it without.
Yeah, that's true. Um, that's interesting. Traces are interesting. The face projections, well, that's kind of in this direction, because then when you're using mask, you're kind of projecting something, right? When you're trying to shadow it, or you try to work with the light, and the actors actually makes very small movements, right? With the mask, to find some nuances with light, which is always not easy job for the actor. And that's very interesting. Some others ideas, or I don't know, the how do you interpret this play? Uh, what was interesting? Let's say in the text, something coming out from the text. There is a moment when there was some sort of very simple light, the usage of lights, right? When there was this storm, when she got lost in the sandstorm, and the sandstorm has risen, and then the person disappeared in the sandstorm.
Well, it's as I was watching the play the other day, the one thing that I was thinking of was the difference between the Japanese part and the parts in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to me, I think the parts in contrast with each other, with the Japanese part being kind of an orchestra with everyone in the part playing in harmony to deliver a performance, whereas the part with I'm not sure what language was that.
German.
Okay, so the German part is pretty much a solo act.
Yeah, exactly.
So well, each of them create a different atmospheres. With the Japanese part, I felt it a more spiritual and more serious.
Am I losing or?
Let's wait for Mr. Karpoluk. Welcome back.
So sorry, I got like thrown out. Okay, so and then right, you were saying about those two parts.
Yes. So as I was saying, the Japanese part with the chorus and the instruments, they gave me a heavy atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a resonation, you could say, with the feelings and while the in the German part there was only the actress's voice.
Mm-hmm.
But the storytelling it drew me in, whereas in the Japanese part it's the atmosphere. So I think this is quite reflective of the cultural difference.
Mm-hmm.
As in the eastern part, it's about harmony, while in the western part, it's about individuality.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the one hand, it is, but this middle part actually, I'll show you something. Like when we have the structure of such performance, really traditional one. I mean, no. Let me. So there is right. The structure looks like this, right? Can you see this?
Yes.
So actually, that was the There are two types of no plays, those which has one act and those which has two acts. This one was complicated one. It had two acts. So we have the enters Waki. There were two of us. Then the Stein Waki have the conversation. Then there is a sort of climax. The Stein dances and exit the stage. Why he exit? Because to appear in the second act in this character real nature. So the first we met, it takes place contemporary in Palestine. So we met a woman who is an old Palestinian woman, right? And she lost her children in the Intifada, in a war. Her son and her daughter was She died in a terrorist attack, completely one of the casualties, right? So the actor goes back to the backstage to change the costume, and it takes some time, right? Because then this figure reappeared as the Samaria woman from the Bible, right? So it takes time actually to change the costume, and that's where that's why the interlude is always in between first act and the second act, and we have an actor who appears alone and in simple words recapitulates the plot of the play, what happened, what's going to happen. And in this case it was this cat, right? So even if it won't be like Nina would not play it, and Nina is Austrian, Nina would not play it in German, that would be a Japanese actor playing in Japanese, right? Actually, she had the costume, and the costume typical, very traditional, and the mask was also those figures from the interlude sometimes wear the mask. On rare occasion, but sometimes they were. And here there was this mask of a cat, which was very original, because it doesn't exist. It was created for this performance. I know this carver, very nice person. So it would be like this structurally, but this figure would not speak German but Japanese. So it has to be stopped, right? And we are sitting over there and pretending that we're kind of not existing, right? For this 25 minutes, which is very hard actually. So you cannot move. And you gotta sit still and think. You have the time to look who is sleeping in the audience, right?
Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask. Like, do you, because you play that long and you have to be on stage, are you actually focused on the play, or does your mind wanders off, or do you use it as meditation?
This is tricky. This is very tricky because you cannot. There are of course different types of performances, different actors, but what you gotta do, you gotta enter your character. And then you gotta play. It's gotta be with a certain dose of psychological realism. But on the other hand, you cannot be overthrown, like, because there is kata, right? There are certain ways of behaving on stage. I cannot make it's not that I'm gonna go left because I'm supposed to go right? And it's not like I'm gonna go left now and then go right. No, it would be a great mistake, right? I would be scorned. No, that is choreography. So it's like you're double agent, right? You're playing your character, and at the same time, you're in your head, you are imagining yourself. How do you look like? What do you do? Where do you go? So that's tricky. So there is no time for watching the audience because that would be a triple agent. But
the part when you just have to sit.
The sit, of course, I'm watching what she's saying. I don't know German that much, so I have this feeling what's going on because they made me turn. Like I cannot. I'm out. We're not gonna go out. We're just gonna pretend that we're out. So I have the feeling what's going on, and when she's in the middle, right, and the scared what she's doing, and then you sit like you're watching the wall, right? That's it. But you cannot fall asleep, of course. Some people close, some musicians close their eyes, right? But they are not sleeping, right? They are also following. You're following, you're imagining it, right? What's going on? It's like you can have then your imagination moment, but then there are parts when I'm not doing anything. I'm just keeping my attention focused. What's going on musically? What the chorus is singing? What my partner is doing? And what the main actor is doing? And there are some moments when I can take a look, because I'm right, like you're sometimes angled towards the audience, and you see who is sleeping. It's very fun, but you cannot laugh apparently. But so I remember in Vienna there were different reactions, of course, and in Vienna, the wife of Japanese ambassador who was sitting in the first row, she had those fighting moments, like. Right? Because I understand that 7 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock, and this is not a comedy, right? It's a hard play, and those sounds, it's disturbing, and sometimes nothing is going on, and right, this movement is sometimes rapid, sometimes very, very slow. So she, right, well, it's okay. But it's always funny.
They said it's kind of like meditation sometimes.
Yeah, but you gotta be focused generally, because you cannot be late.
Yeah.
It's like the most intensive 1 hour and a half in my life. I've never been so focused. And when you exit and right, and you can take it off because it's like tons on you. So you're really, after 1 hour, you're exhausted. Like you were running somewhere, like, I don't know, 20 kilometers. This tension is so high. And then okay, we finish. And then those actors, right, start to, you have this moment of, right, emotional response to what you did on stage, which is usually like an explosion, right? And then you can start drinking, for example. You need it. You need to do something, because that was immerse focus.
And is the end, yeah, then just like actors disappear anymore and there's no like applause or something? Or like what is Japanese?
Yeah, well, I mean, in Japan there is a little applause in this sort of place. Here, people probably were kind of surprised with everything and tired. That was intensive time, and it's not that kind of it has good ending, but it's never it's not like we're gonna live happily. Maybe not.
Yeah, but interesting. So for me, I didn't know that it was from a biblical story. So for me, yeah, it was the conflict. Like, yeah, from the content, I neither know much about history, like Palestine, and I don't know about biblical stories. And for
Most of actors don't, because they are not Christians, right? So they have like general ideas, right? And then I have to, this is this story, right?
Yes.
Okay, but that works the same with us. Like they're gonna say something, I don't know, by.
But so I meant like
what? Which Buddha? Shakyamuni? Okay, and then right. So that's the interweaving moments.
Yeah, so I couldn't interpret like the story that much, and for me, like I watched like some no and kabuki, so like I'm familiar with that, and also Japanese language and German language as well. So it wasn't like surprising anymore. So maybe it's more difficult to find out than like stuff because I'm like familiar with that. For like someone who hasn't watched like that kind of play, it would be like strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's just like I'm used to it.
It would be strange for majority of the audience in Japan as well, I guess. I mean, something different. So it's hard to get the story, right? Even if you know the Japanese, but actually, so it's good that there were subtitles in German during the play, so people can read it actually throughout the story.
Yeah, it was in the background, right?
Yeah. Well, that's your usual job you do.
Yeah, also thinking if in AR subtitles could be this.
Yeah, that's another question. What to do with the subtitles? Do the subtitles? Don't do the subtitles? First, when I was younger, I thought, no subtitles. You gotta take it. But now it's like, I would say, yeah, subtitles are needed.
Or is there a guide? Because I know like sometimes for ballet or something, you get like a guide at the beginning which tells the story.
Of course, there was a program and there was the whole synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in some Japanese theater, in National No Theater, even for the Japanese plays, you have a sort of monitor at the seat in front of you, and you can follow the text. Because even if you are Japanese, it's hard to understand because it's singing, right? It's poetry, so it's like you go to the opera, right? And they sing in Italian or in German. Right, even if you're a user of this language, right, you have this idea what Valkyria from Valkyria is saying, but generally what's going on really, right? So it's those words in every this type of musical theater are kind of distorted, right? Or stretch, for example, if it's always stretch because they add something.
I think it's interesting. So for here, like there were Sola's movements that you can look at the subtitles as well without, like I would just say, missing something. But I know that like I was at a show where someone presented his short films and they were like in Arab and had English subtitles. But at some point, I just didn't look at the subtitles and was just like immersed in the story, even though I wouldn't understand because of Arabic. But at that moment, like the story or the feeling was more important for me than the subtitles.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that you don't have to know this convention exactly. You could, of course, you can learn it in many years, but you don't have to know it to kind of enjoy it, right? So it's not like enjoyment when you're watching a Disney movie, apparently, right? It's not that type of entertainment, although it is an entertainment. You don't have to, right? You can follow your first feelings, right? You like it or you don't, obviously, right? But then it's good to. It's interesting even. It could be interesting even without the knowing this convention, because think about it, right? Generally, of course, she's writing in this book a little about it. There are. There is such meaning in this Erika Fischer-Lichte text. There are different conventions, right? Of course. But still, you can interweave them in the performances. It's not like in Japan, everybody knows this type of theater, right? People will go to the street and, are you a no fan? No, I haven't seen it in my life. That's what, if you go to Warsaw, and how about the opera? No, I've never been there, right? It's a certain type of user, right, who likes it. So it's not that being ethnically somebody makes you understand Wagner, or I don't know. No, it doesn't, right? If you don't do it, if you don't watch it, if you don't like it, if you don't read about it. But still, there is a space for interweaving, and this is sort of, she's revealing this in this book. If you get through all the book, or particularly about this chapter about interweaving. By the way, she had such center. I met her as a lovely lady from Berlin, actually. from Freie Universität, I think. Well, when I met her, she was working there, and she had such center, Interweaved, Center for Interweaving in Performance, and she was kind of bringing people from around the world, and while they were usually working on some book or something, so that was providing sort of intellectual space. They stay for 1 year in Berlin at the university, and they have a series of seminars, and they can finish their texts or whatever they were doing. So that was practical. I'm not sure if this program is running still, but that was the idea. They were doing it for many years. But even if you don't, well, there are certain points in or such, let's say, general features of global performances, which are general, right? Because Homo sapiens is Homo sapiens. So you can produce the voice, you can produce the sound with your voice, with clapping your hands, with some sort of instruments. You have two hands, right? The dance is everywhere the same, if you think about it. Dance is a reaction to music, body reaction to music. So you get the idea of dancing, right? So if person is moving rapidly, because music is rapidly, so probably there is a sort of, right, raging feelings inside of this character, if you think about the theater, right? So there are general points. That's why probably those different genres or whatever it is, types of expression in the performance could be mixed, could be interweaved, and it's being interweaved on was till the pandemic on a large scale. I believe so. But it's a matter of, you know, the organization and willingness of people to do such things, right? Partaking the subject which doesn't belong to your sphere. I've never been to Palestine. Nobody from the circle of people who are doing this never been to Nablus, right? We don't know it. We've never been there, right? We have to believe that it looks like a desert. This Jacob's Well, which is a actual physical construction, or a place rather now, because I'm not sure if it's a well there, near Nablus, it's really existed there, right, for more than 2,000 years at least. That was proposed to be done in Tel Aviv, I guess, once, but it stopped on the level of conversation at the Tel Aviv University, because this is something which is although like few years now, it's impossible to stage it there, right? Because of the political reason. At that time, it was already kind of because of the political. Now, reconciliation with Palestinians is it's not something that's going to happen, right, in Israel state. So playing a play by Austrian author with Japanese people, that's kind of no, right? So there are restrictions, of course, if you think about it, how to deal with. That there was no problem in Poland, no problem in France, no problem in Austria, but also because this is a little bit no problem in Japan, because it is a little bit detached.
Yeah, this is also what I think is interesting, or yeah, it's like kind of conflicted that you like portray like kind of like stories with like a moral at the end, based on like certain countries or cultures, but you can just show it outside of them, so the people inside just like are the same, while the outside can have more a look on it, but the outside people can't actually change something then afterwards, even if they have like the knowledge.
True. True. That's always tricky, right? And it's always. I know one play which this group realized. Not exactly the same people, some other people, or maybe no. Part of this crew was in that production. It's called Bohonka. That was a play by Japanese author Tada Tomio, and she wrote a play. You know, well, there was a, of course, there is a political tension between Japan and South Korea still, because of the colonial policy of Japan in the peninsula. So basically between 1910 and 1945, Korea whole, right, as a whole, was a part of Japanese so-called Teikoku Empire. So the atrocities has been done by the Japanese army, both in Korea and China, no doubt. And this Japanese, he was a medicine doctor actually. He wrote such play which is titled Bohonka. It means the Song of Sorrow. It was about the woman who was who lost family because they were because they taken from her children and husband, I guess, and became workers in Japan during the war period, right? And they could reconcile after, but not physically because they never met in real life. That was a real story, and those actually did this main actor actually she traveled with the producer to Korea to meet those. That was a real story, to meet those people. And that was interesting play, right? But then, and it was present at least, I'm not sure about Korea, but it was present in Tokyo, and that's hard, right? This is, you have to be ready for some gesture, right, towards the people, maybe, right, your dearest grandfathers harmed so much, or your ancestors, right, grandfathers of the people who live now in these past generations, right? Mm-hmm. What's the responsibility for the state for nowadays, right? And that was a hard play, right? But it was staged in Japan and very well received. But then, of course, you always wonder what could be done, what cannot be done, how it's going to be, what's going to be the reaction if you get the funds for it, right? Because if you think about it, there is rarely in contemporary theater, rarely something which is detached from the politics. Rarely. Politics or just the history of human relations in the 20th century, because that was a very violent century, right? This is every country has such areas. Poles and Germans, Poles and Ukrainians, Russians, pretty much all around the world, right? I don't know, French and German, English and German, Americans and indigenous Americans. I've been just reading Cormac McCarthy novel, this Bloody Meridian. Horrible, right? What they've done. They've exterminated, right?
I have to say that, like, probably also, like, people want to see tragic. It's like always, I don't know, it's like psychological, or so if they feel better or something. So sometimes it's just like you want to see it, but on the other hand, I really have to say, like, here at this university, probably I learned more about history than I did in Germany. So. Mm-hmm.
But that's what happens when you're on a scholarship, right? Because then that's a mechanism. I also had it when I was studying abroad. But then you start to wonder, who am I, right? It's a serious question, right? Where I come from, what's the different perspective? What's the right? What we do in my country, how people see it outside. Although Europe is pretty much reconciled now, right?
Yeah, it's like similar.
It's different. But then in Asia, for example, those old tensions between, for example, Japan and Korea, it's like still going on. It's not gonna end.
Yeah.
And you don't see the end of this, right? Of this escalation of regrets.
But then it's like this is also like the question. Like when I ask exchange student, mostly it's like it's just government. They say like the people itself like don't have this like generation sin thing or something. Also, like in Germany, it's like told if your grandfather was a Nazi, do you still have like also like part of that stuff? But yeah, and so like the individual, it's like fine. It's more like a governmental.
Yeah, well, if you start, yeah, of course, right. But well, nothing is heredited in genes. In genes, no, I don't know. The color of your eyes is heredited. What you got in mind, it's not. Right?
Yeah.
The matter of well, shaping your mind. Right, but of course, but then in terms of politics, it's always been used by the politicians, right? Because, for example, Japan and South Korea pretty much has right-wing governments. And they are using it as kind of, they are cooperating in this hatred because they use it. Or Israeli and Palestinian. Israeli government is very right wing, right? So they use those. They use those regrets as spinning wheels for the politics, for domestic politics. That's obvious when you look at what Japanese and Korean are doing permanently, right? Those complain, so that's actually they would answer, but actually they like it because that's domestic politics. We concentrate people, and we are your saviors because, right? Those
it's kind of like hate love or something.
So it's like absurd politics between many countries, right?
And then, like, of course, if you have like what is it called? Your enemy is your friend when you have another enemy or something. When China is coming, then like Japan and Korea.
Your enemy. Yeah, something like this.
You mean you know what I mean? Yeah, it's also interesting. Like I talked like in like especially when like Korea and Japan in relationship to Germany. Like I talked to like a Korean citizen, and he's actually like very proud, and he's like actually saying he's like a nationalist or something. So which is really strange for me, because if a German takes this,
there is a different ideas about political correctness, right?
Yeah, and so I was like also okay, just like didn't know, but yeah, apparently from both
what
sides.
Do you mean? What you're gonna do, right? What's your next move if you're
yeah, from like I had like also when I talk with like Japanese people, and it's the same like with Korea, because Germany was like I think for the medical system in like Korea and Japan, and so they perceive like Germany as good, or I don't know, like yeah, right. I talked with like the Korean one, and he was actually saying something about that Hitler was from things like doing the best, and I was like, okay,
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Like probably not, yeah, of course, like with Jewish, but like probably from some sort of like strategies, or I don't know.
Let's say anyway, when you come to Adolf Hitler, everything you say it's a sort of experiment, right?
Yeah, and so I was really confused about like his beliefs, and if it's good to keep contact with him or just
what?
Yeah, that's what it's like.
But on the other hand, there are like Europeans, because I've met such people, like European fans of this all Japanese imperial army stuff, and like, why you cannot say this in Japan, right? So they're gonna call the police that you are a sort of like fascist or somebody, because that's extremist says this, right?
Have you seen the movie Parasite?
Yeah,
right. And then like the guy also said like, Well, he didn't watch it, but it's good for Germany because this house afterwards was apparently bought by a German person, and it should like convey that Germany is richer. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was a good movie, right? Social critique. I'll show you two things, or maybe even more things, but with the, let's, what is this? Wait a moment. Sort of examples of this. Oyama. I don't have it. Wait a moment. Sort of example. Where is this? I had it on my desktop and then I place it somewhere. Here. Sort of experimental works. Nope, not here. Wait a moment. So feel free to talk. I'll try to find it on my disk. Sort of experimental works. Combining different genres, and no is part of it. So meanwhile, when I need to find it. Meanwhile, let's. Have you got any other ideas how it could be redone with technological elements? What could be added?
Jakub, when I saw your performance, I was focusing on stage movements, stage speech, costumes, because for me and for I think Poles, it's so, and Europeans people, it's so exotic.
It is, yeah, of course, it's something different. True.
And I think that most often in Poland we can't necessarily understand the form of this Japanese theater. Maybe Buto is closer to us because of the interaction of the performer with the body, you know.
Yeah.
I saw it one time in Poland, the performance of the Buto, and it was really fantastic.
Yeah, Buto is more like this, let's say, basing on improvisation, more like comes from the body. And yes, here we have a certain language, right? Like more like ballet. It's not ballet, but it's an artificial language, right? True. Yeah, of course.
And but the topic of this play and this performance, I think, strongly affected my imagination, because when we are talking about the holy place, I associated this with I think Moses and Aaron. I mean Schoenberg's opera, and of course biblical parable, and also the war zone now. So for me, it's associated with something about the novels of Amos Oz, for example. and I think it would be interesting to present this text, this play, for example, in VR, in VR realization, and I would make the main topic the hell of the current war between of course Israel and Palestine, maybe with the modern scenography. Also, the motive of journey is very important, and the motive of suffering, maybe war trauma, and the elements of nature. And as Erika Lichte writes, following the Max Reinhardt example, maybe it would be worth using some elements from Kabuki, maybe Hanamichi, because unity on stage would be very important here, I think. I don't exactly know what it is exactly, because I didn't see any example of Hanamichi on live, let's say.
It's like when we have this, it's kind of, we have this stage and there was this corridor, right?
Yes.
So Hanamichi would be such a corridor, but in front of the stage, not at the side. Probably Hanamichi comes from the no stage.
Okay.
So that would be going into the, we are going like, this is different idea, right? No, you're going to I don't know, to some sphere, to some, right? I don't know, supernatural, like different reality, like you're going to VR. But in Kabuki, it's more like flesh type of theater. So you go towards the people, right? To meet, like physically with other people. That's how it serves. It used to serve not for this conveying that there is a supernatural reality, like but to get the spectators have this moment of stardom, right? Of actors, right? To be close to them because they love them. This is sort of, yeah, that could be, yeah, sure. That's one question. That one.
Also thought about, like, I have this guide to it's like very beautiful illustrated, and they have like from
yeah, they are good in this.
Yeah, like description, and they say like the Gakari is like the path between living and afterlife. Yeah, if you don't know like the structure, that even like the architecture has like meaning, then also like there is one meaning less. So it would be really like good to kind of
generally this space would look like, I'll show you, like this, right? So that's a set stage, conventional, right? So we got Hashigakari here. So this is, well, physically, this is a wardrobe, Kagami no Ma. You put the costume.
It's really actually totally this. Oh, I just have to put on the background. Yeah, it's really totally like the setting. I don't know if it's visible, but yeah, even like the background picture.
Yeah, it's always the same. It's called Kagamita. So it's supposed to be the picture of the pine tree. This is different theater, but the structure is the same. This is National Theater in Tokyo, National No Theater. This is the Senka. So you got a pine tree always, but different, right? Because different artists made it. So in this production in Vienna, we had this wall behind us, but that was water, right? It was maybe water stands for longevity in the area when there is no water, right? Because it's pretty much desert, right? And then you have the well, which gives you life generally, right? Literally. Right, so those elements would be the same permanently. This is another theater, right? Kanzeno theater. Again, the structure is the same. And this is actually how it started, right? So those stages till 1882 were, there are of course hundreds of outside stages in Japan, but then till 1882 there were only such stages, right? So it's outside. Of course, you have a roof over the stage. That was raining, I remember, and people were sitting, right? So really pouring rain. But they were keep on doing because they have a roof, they have those pillars, right? And it was just transformed into the, let's say, modern buildings, like it was. It was probably fixed the first half of 17th century, so not that long time ago.
I got something in my mind, like it's totally, I would say, like out of the box, but I thought it would be interesting to see, like, as if this whole stage and actors would be visualized like kind of like in a game, so that when you have like those pine trees, that can be maybe like some checkpoints, and like really having like elements, or like in a fight where they have then like this tracing of sword kind of stuff, and this like maybe projected on the dance, or see like where on the floor people were walking around. Like,
yeah, that's true. It could be done. There are such experiments done. I'm not very happy with majority of them, but I'll show you some examples. I have example of a certain interweaved performances that actually took place in this Senkai Theater with Shimizu Kanji, the actor at Jacob's Well. So these are short pieces in which noise combined with contemporary music. And so let's watch them, and then let's wonder. Well, I'll ask you, what do you think about it? Okay. So they do, of course, nowadays all sorts of experiments. There is there is a Buto dancer. If you want to watch it, we can watch it. Okay. So I'll show you two interweaved performances with contemporary, particularly experimental music. This one, and then we'll watch something more familiar, I guess. Okay. This is the end of Buto.
oh, that's interesting, because normally you don't see legs.
Completely like it's violating every possible rules, right? They have stretching legs outside. You don't do such things, right?
Yes, very surprising.
You don't play like that if you're no actor, right? You don't do, the stage is holy. But all sorts of experiments are of course being done nowadays, because we're living in a mixed artistic when it comes to the genres, in the mixed genre period. So this one, it's very famous. This is Toru Takemitsu. Was a modern composer. He was doing with classical music, but of course experimental one. It's called Water Music, or Mizuno Kyoku, and this is no actor, Shimizu Kanji, interpreting it. It was actually he wrote it. Takemitsu Toru he died in the 80s. He wrote it in 1964, and then it was for a no actor, right, to cooperate with a no actor at that time in this avant-garde era. Okay, so let's watch this one, and then the next one, which would combine some type of projection and the light element, which is not bad, I believe. The next one we're gonna see, and then I'll show you, and then we'll have let's talk about it, and then I'll show you this more let's say more easy to grasp collaboration between the no dance and Eric Satie, right, music. This is beginning of the 20th century, so less avant-garde than this one. And then we could, if you'd like to, we could see this Buto interpretation of no space.
And also the pattern are on the kimono are water and steam pattern, right?
True. Steam going up. It's very short, so this is already something different. Then this is what Akita Takahashi. Okay, this is another piece, but purely music. And this, let's see, this one. That's different. No, different piece. So this is Morton Feldman, Palais de Marie, and again the music on piano and the no dance and with sort of projection, right? And with a screen, right, on the displayed on the stage. And it's over. So how do you, so this is, well, original works, very short, basing on completely different music ideas, because that's not no music, but on a no stage, right? So sort of those interweaved performances. There are different, apparently there are different types of interweaving. You can have people like me going into some conventional theaters that originally are not part of my cultural circle. I have to learn it, but actually people in Japan also have to learn it. Or you can have this ethnic element is not necessary, right? Because we are dealing with the global, how to put it, global culture, right? Global heritage. Then you can pick up things. It doesn't mean that if you're Japanese, your classical music is not Mozart or I don't know, well, whatever, right? It is part of your cultural experience as well, because we live in a global world. But right, there are such possibilities. Mixing the genres is also interweaving. It could produce interesting effects. I would say, generally speaking, they would be more interesting if they are not very realistic, right? When they go towards abstraction or abstractionism as a certain idea, right? Not a story, some narratives that are hardly to be spoken, right? Because they come from unconsciousness or whatever it is. Not the storyline. I'm telling you a story of something, merchant or goddess. No, when it's a story about human, right? I don't know, maybe. But how do you react? What do you think about those two pieces? Right? Mizu no Kyoku, the water piece, and this one, the last one. How did you like it? What do you think? How or what's possible interpretation, if it's possible?
Passing of time.
Mm-hmm. So the second one had this media element, very subtle, right? Very really really modest, let's say, somehow formally. Just light maybe, and the projection, but those images are right. It's like music notation maybe of this. But then there was an image in the second image was sort of figurative image of sea maybe. I'm not sure. How did you like it maybe at the beginning? Did it grasp your attention?
Well, the first one was kind of like the other in a way, so very minimalistic. So yeah, I could draw out more more from, yeah, as I said, like from the clothes, or the sound were like interesting. So Or a way to interpret would be that probably the water is still and the person is portraying the water.
Yeah, the water, right? Water in the image, because those, right? If you, this Nuihaku kimono has a water pattern. Yeah. Actually, Kanzemizu, the associated one with one of the organizations, and then you have this pattern of steam going out, going up, and it's a cloth that reveals that the figure is actually of a noble status, right?
Yeah, but like the sound then actually was more like heart sounds from like water, so also having like this contrast, and yeah, so it's kind of like to the audience to figure out how to combine or create a bridge between those two contrasts.
Okay, so I'll show you two more less enigmatic, also short pieces. One would be, let's say, this is Eric Satie, this French fin de siècle modernist composer, right, turn of 19th and 20th century. He was associated actually with first avant-garde because he was working with Picasso, for example, and the Nodens choreographed for it. And then I think the second is also Satie. Well, we'll see it because it's always some subtitles. Satie and Buto, right? So Buto and a completely different type of movement then, probably. So let's see both of them, both of those dances. These are dance pieces. Okay. So first one is Gnosienne. This is those series of very I said it's going to be less enigmatic, but Gnosienne are those pieces by Eric Satie. He wrote it in 1890s. Such word doesn't exist in French, not exactly such word. So they are sort of, meditation on I don't know, on the human mind, maybe, I'm not sure. This, and now something different, right? This is again nausea. No, this is different. Gymnopédie, but also by Satie, but different type of body expression. Right, and this is Mizuno Kyoku already. So what do you think about it?
I like them a lot.
Why?
I really like them because for me, Western music or even like Satie is like really, I know those pieces and like probably a lot of people also have like music theory, so we know like movements or like how to interpret this music, and I think it's a very nice combination with the Japanese dances. So especially like for the first one where there was no facial expression, or I really feel
actors what they usually do, and when you're when they teach you have like what you do with the face, right? Relax, your face doesn't exist. So you gotta,
but I mean like especially because the face didn't move just the body, it really had something for me from like porcelain figures, like puppet dance. So because of the Western music, it was like very gracile. Yeah, so very much, yeah, not like a king, but like very like pride and very smooth and very, yeah, nice to look at.
And then the second, the Buto.
The second was more on facial expression, and I would call it more into the romantic area, like really more like the suffering of humans. So, but both of them, this is what I think Japanese and Western have in common, is like bittersweet. I would call.
Yeah, well, human, right?
Yeah.
And like human existence is like this tragic comic. Actually, Sati is a good example because that's how that's this type of music, right? Sweet, bittersweet, tragic, comic. It's kind of comic, but then there is really something tragic in this comism of human life.
Yeah, it's like this mixture of like tragedy and being like in your own world, and yeah, I think it's the one, like the realization that you're not living in a dream world, I would say.
Well, when Sati was right, probably he was. There is also a very good animation to see. But probably I show it right. This Yamamura Koji did piece, Sati, Parade de Sati. It's just,
yeah, I think was it with the circus.
Yeah. And Sati, that's also good direction, because Sati was this right. He was not with this gymnopédie Nozien. A little bit later, he was into right. But at that time, probably he was. On the other hand, I'm not sure if it's important, but he was into psychoanalysis at that time. That was the boom for psychoanalysis, right? And then he became more associated with surrealism, right? So that's the abstractionist, cubism, even.
Yeah.
So that's this making out of it those abstract figures based on some conventional black convention in movement. It's something that produces interesting effect, I guess. Although you cannot say that it's a linear narration about something. No, it's not. Right? It's not linear, and it's really hard to call it narrative. It's a moment. Maybe that's a moment. Something you saw it or you don't. Right? That's not going to happen again, probably.
Right? Yeah. This also, yeah, it's just like once in a lifetime, I would call it.
It is.
Yeah, or when we go like higher on those like levels, I also saw for like this first or like this animation I showed you, probably I did for the Japanese song with like the strokes. There was like actually the idea was music is like a painting, and you can like paint like the same strokes or press the same notes, but every time it's just a bit different. And this is like the human. This is what like human makes that like you can't repeat everything exactly the same thing.
True. Actually, with this actor, I was staging those dances, this Nozien, in Poland twice, in different. Once in a national opera house, but on a very small stage with the Polish pianist Paweł Kowalski, and that was completely different. That was a complete different improvisation, more movement he added, and then we did it one more time, but without pianist, unfortunately, because we didn't have the money. In Łazienki Palace, in this ground ballroom used by Stanisław August Poniatowski, the Last King, which is rococo, right? Glorious. And he danced to it, like, and that was kind of less movement than in the opera house. So that was interesting. Of course, in the end, I'll show you two more maybe short pieces. You can add element. What you can add, for example, you could add to interweaved pieces. You can add more elements, like more musical structure, more instruments, or costume, mask, some props. You can experiment with this. Of course, people does it. I'm not sure if it's better then, but right? We have such an example in the same recording, right? Wait a moment. So this is the series that is going on in this theater, starting in 1970s, actually. Aoyama Experimental Workshop with different actors when they try to experiment, right, with this interweaving of genres. This is the last project from last year. This is different already. So that was but the first one was, this is actually a certain part of the play. This is Yuasa Joji's Ritual for Delphi. That was a play he wrote, no play. He wrote and they staged it in 1979. Just to give you an example how it could be. So there is a narrative. It's a play. It's a drama.
Is the pig actually like from a lion? Because I thought like from kabuki, like lion have like similar.
This is some deity, I believe. With the mask, but the mask is this is mask probably made for this play in 1979 because it's not like following those existing patterns. So that's a narrative of you know, let's say, taken from this classical Greek new narrative, but let's say about Delphi, right? About Greek gods, let's say, or sort of this type of idea, Greek mythology, let's say. Now I have maybe did I show you this? Because I have an example of a heavy interweaved no performance, heavy interweave with technology and staging tools based on the let's say not the newest technologies, based on projections, animations, and projected animations, projected on screen, projected all over the hall. Did I show you this one about Dali, Salvador Dali? Dali, no, or not?
No.
Do you mean Desparium? I think Dali, like, Disney.
Like the Dali is in the Museum of Contemporary Art, but it's played by no actor. He's taking elevator.
No, I don't know this. I just saw the one with Disney and Dali.
Ah, no. So that's not. I have such recording. Where is this? Wait a moment. Okay, so that's gonna be two last ones. This one, or maybe two other group. I'm not sure. Well, we all know Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali was a very curious painter. Of course, mostly surrealist throughout of his life. These are some of his, right? The Ascension of Christ, The Melting Clock, A Dream Caused by the Flight of a Bee Around the Pomegranate and a second before waking. And in 2016, so already 5 years ago, the National Arts Center in Tokyo was staging a big retrospective, probably the biggest in Japan ever, of Dali's painting. That was a big exhibition, well, taking place for a couple of months, right? It was apparently very expensive to stage it. And they commissioned a no play, a short no play, because this curator thought it might be interesting. Commissioned it at the Senkai, exactly with Shimizu Kanji, the actor who I'm working with, to prepare a play about Dali, but they wanted to have it along with some, let's say, new media elements. And one of the very famous designer, Japanese one, was commissioned. Later I can find his name. He's quite, at the moment I forgot his name. He's very well known. He runs this studio called Rhizomatics. If you look at in the Google, you will find it. Later I'll find you the link. And they came up partly those, well, and they came up with this idea, Dali no. Did I show you this or not?
No.
During some other classes, maybe?
Also not in Japanese history, I think. Not this semester.
I'm not talking there about generally about performing arts. So let's watch it, okay? Maybe I'll switch. It takes a few minutes, so I'll switch on the camera. It's kind of funny, especially when he's taking an elevator. This is the interior is like this. This is interior of National Museum of Modern Art in Tokyo. This very interesting building in the shape of a wave. And this is Dali no. And this is heavily implemented with new media. Right, rhizomatics. This is the this there is a name of this guy now. If you rhizomatics prepare those projections. Techno project. Funny name. That's a part. It's not a whole. It was, but it was not that long. It was some 20 minutes, 25 or something. And so, what do you think about it? How it works? How it worked together? What do you think?
I think it was fantastic, and I think close maybe to the European narrations, something like that. Because there was a topic, a story we all knew.
Yeah, he's Salvador Dali. He's telling that he loves his wife, and right, he's saying about. No, he's appearing, right? The idea was that the ghost of Salvador Dali appears on this at the open. This is opening of this big exhibition, right? So he's supposed to. They call for the ghost, right?
Yes.
But the ghost is actually interested in technology. This is the problem we're dealing.
So it was interesting because this was something like a ritual about the.
Yeah, exactly.
It also reminded me of in the New Year's or like start of New Year, like in Japan, there are like coming these guys which like pray and like throw beans and say luck come in, bad spirits go out. So I thought this is maybe also some like ritual to like pray for a good success.
Yeah, praying for success for this exhibition for sure. And he was pleased because that's my exhibition. Right? Also funny when he took this elevator. Right? Usually ghosts don't take. Yeah, usually ghosts don't take elevators, right? But this one was kind of. He liked it. Salvador Dali liked science, right? So those. I mean, he was incorporating science into the compositions. Some mathematical algorithm into his paintings. He was right many times saying about his fascination in modern physics. I'm not sure how he understood it, but he was studying it. So he's like fascinated by elevator or the modern architecture, right? Which is very strong actually. This building is very strong and pure modernism, functionality, right? Such stuff.
It's acceptable because he's like this figure which is really experimental. So I think people won't like be that strict about having someone else being portrayed. Yeah, because I think like at itself, like Dali probably would like it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Then I have another piece, like 5 minutes as well, a making of this project, right? Because the mask, for example, it's metal. It's supposed to be wood, but they made it in metal. And let's watch it in the end.
I just realized, is it also the same mask they used like in robber series?
I don't think so. They made it especially for it. This actor has it. I mean,
with this like mustache upwards, I think House of Money or something.
Maybe, but Salvador Dali's got this mustache, right? Sometimes short, sometimes long. I have it in my mind. I have it in my hands. Actually, I was exhibiting it in Warsaw in 2018, and it's very light, surprisingly light. It's
is it aluminium then?
I'm not sure. That maybe it's on this movie. Titan, I'm not sure, or aluminium, something like this. Very, very light. So wait a moment. Maybe without me. So this is behind the Dali now. This is this designer. I mean, visual art. 宇宙のこととか、奥さんのこととか、そういうことも含めて書いているかっていう感じはしますよね。そして生前に残した作品とは全然違う作品っていうのを書いている可能性は
あるのかなと思いますね。
That's how they make the mask. Computer process, digitally processed. Usually it's a man, right? Mask carver does it.
まず弊社は50年以上の機械加工というものをやってるんですけども、機械加工っていわゆるそのマシニングセンターって言われる大きな機械があって、でその機械でその金属を削るんですね。今回そのダリの面というのが、話をいただいたときに、うちとしても過去にいろんなことをやってるので、こういったものだったらこういう削り方をすれば多分、今までにないものとか、これどうやって削ってるんだろうみたいなものが我々の提案としてできるかなと思ったんで、非常に面白いなと思って今回のプロジェクトに参加させてもらいました。初対面です。よろしくお願いします。完全に金属の削り出しのメタリックな、雰囲気なので、今までの概念からすると邪道なのかもしれないですけど、我々からしたら本当にそこに魂を注ぐぐらいの、いろんな技術のノウハウをつぎ込んでるので、こういうひんやりした面が初めてですからね。木です。そうですね。木って硬いようだけど随分柔らかいもんだなって思いますね、こうなるとね。伝統工芸品っていうのは、ほとんどのものが手で作られてると思うんですね。で、手ってものすごく器用で、いろんなことができるんですけど、我々の業界はいわゆるコンピューターでものを作っていくので、それを数値化しなきゃいけないんですよ。人の感覚をデジタルに置き換える。で、デジタルに置き換えたものをプログラミングをする。で、そのプログラミングをしたものを今度さっき言ったマシニングセンターを削るっていう結構なプロセスがあるんですよ。綺麗です。針でいうとかなりこのヒゲの部分が特徴的なのかなと思うんですけど、このヒゲの部分に関して言うと、これもちろんデジタルで作るので、一つのなんていうんだろうな、針金みたいな細いワイヤーのフレームをもう何百本もまず作って、でそれをコンピューター上で編み込んでいくような作業をするんですね。じゃあそういった細いものを編み込んでいくと、もちろん細かいディテールが無数にできるので、じゃあそれを表現するためにどうするかというと、髪の毛2本分ぐらいのドリルを使うんですけど、これをさるがというような具合になるでしょうか。正直ものすごくやっぱり苦労が多いので、そういった背景にいる人たちっていうんですかね、実際N社の力持ちのエンジニアたちの心意気みたいのをこの面から感じてもらえればすごくいいんじゃないかなと思います。多分日本の文化全体的にもそうだと思うんですけど、変えない美しさと、変えないために変えていく美しさっていうのがあると思うんですね。だから今回はどちらかというと変えないために変えていく美しさ。日本の所作っていうのは形が抑制されているようなんですけども、その抑制によってどこか弾けるって言いますかね、ふっと出ていくみたいなことが、できるっていう構造でもあるんですよね。ただぐるっと回るだけでもどういう加速度を使うのか、体の中に体が一つの体っていうんではなしに中に重層的に まあ、右の体もあれば左の体もあって、その中でこうどういう力を与えていくとどういう加速度がこう発生するかみたいな演技術になっているので、分かりやすいストーリーを作るわけではなくて、もう一軸なんていうんですかね、世界を再現する集合体を作るためのなんか要素を追加したっていうイメージですけど、まあ、追加したというか追加できるといいなっていうイメージですね。果たしてここは宇宙なのか、もしくは宇宙ではないなんか誰の脳の細胞の中なのかみたいな、比較的すごいアブストラクトの表現を多く使ったっていうことですかね。今回ダリの絵が背景に出てくるんですけど、なんかそこは個人的に今までだって脳の背景がダリの絵ってありえないじゃないですか。それを個人的に見たかったところがありますよ。ダリの威厳というか、こう何かに対峙しているっていうかね、その対峙している向こうの世界っていうのを、まあ、こちら演じるについても何か作りたいなとは思っています。あそこの広い空間の中でこう私を呼び寄せるっていうか、このいろんな重力っていうか引力が働いてくると思うので、それをどうやって引き込んでそれをまたこう返していくかっていうのが、できればいいなと思っています。誰もびっくりしてるね。
Yeah, probably he would be surprised. That's how it was done, right? So that was heavily implemented with technologies, including the carving of this mask and those rhizomatics animation, which was kind of which were cool, although it was 5 years ago. I think his name is Ida. This guy, he's quite famous in Japan. This media designer. Although he's not permanently working in the theater, more like really, let's say, very like commercials, this stuff, right? More like corporation stuff, for corporations or for some brands, multimedia designs. But he said something, right? If it goes towards this abstractionism, that works, right? This is always the case. So all right, this is it's all been here for a long time. Sorry. So this is the end, basically. This is my last meeting, and actually next year, because probably pandemic will be over, hopefully. I'm planning. We're gonna have workshops April, May, and I'm in charge of it. So I got the money. So basically, my idea for one of those workshops, and probably it will take 2 weeks, like April 1 week and then May 1 week, is to collaborate with Shimizu Kanji because he's my very good friend. So I will bring him from Japan, and then we'll think about some sort of multimedia performance, based on no moving pattern. So probably that we will form, well, people of course will inscribe on. That's not going to be easy job. It's not going to be one, right? Easy workshops, because part of it would be learning how to dance and sing, because you got to understand it, and then part of it would be designing something. I'll talk to him what we could do. So the idea is the idea is just this very well pre-ideas. Just I'm thinking about it, and then I'll bring somebody to some other teacher to maybe Jesus Perez. I'm not sure, or somebody else to as a head of designing team, right? To design something according to music. Probably maybe it could be Sati or something else, or Takemitsu Toru. or something completely different. I'm not sure. So that's my idea. So if you will be around, please join. We're gonna do something. It's gonna be totally like outer space. That's my idea. Okay, any final remarks since we are finishing? Comments, questions?
I'm really thankful for the opportunity that you shared us like so many insights like of Japanese performance arts. Yeah.
Of course. That's
Thank
my
you very
job.
much.
That's what I do for living. Thank you. Anyway, this is a seminar. I'm supposed to give you some grades. I'm not sure on what basis, but everybody said something, so I guess it's A. But since it's a well, planned as a sort of BA seminar or diploma seminar, in the session, of course, you have please send me, could be via Teams, could be via email, sort of description on your written part of the diploma, right? This theoretical paper. I'll download those remarks we've been dealing in March, those tips for writing paper. I will download it here. I just have to correct it yet. And I would say, I don't know, some table of contents, well, subject, right? Table of contents, subject, part of introduction, for example, proposed bibliography, and then, right, let's have it could be individual, doesn't have to be on some sort of meetings in July, okay? Something. And then from 26 and next 3 meetings that will be done by Krzysztof Popiołek and Rafał Ryterski. But since I'm supposed to be in charge, so I'm gonna join next week, but just to introduce those people, right? And then take over. And you're gonna do according to the plan is up to them what you're gonna do in June. Okay. One is a theater director, the second is a composer. Let's say experimental type of composer, right? Although he's very classically educated in Friedrich Chopin Music University in Warsaw, actually. Composition, graduated. Rafał Ryterski. Any questions? Final words? If not, thank you very much, and we will meet briefly in the next week. Okay.